Welcome to Clicks and Coffee. Today, I'm honored to introduce Rob Liebreich, President and CEO of Goodwin Living, a non-for-profit organization dedicated to supporting, honoring, and uplifting the lives of older adults and those who care for them. Since joining Goodwin Living in 2019, Rob has leveraged over 2 decades of leadership in senior living to enhance services and expand community impact. Notably, he developed the StrongerMemory program inspired by personal experiences to improve cognitive health among older adults. Rob, welcome.
Great to be with you.
So in senior living, there is one particular trait to everybody that I interview is that people do this because they care and always have a fascinating story as to how they got into the industry. So I would like to know, how did you start it, and what is the story for your dedication to this industry?
So my journey into this field started with my grandmother. She was supposed to be moving into a senior living community in 2002. And instead of moving into a community, she ended up passing away. And I sat bedside with her as that occurred. And so she had some excitement and around the idea of moving into a community, but there's also a lot of anxiety and fear. And I thought at the time I was in telecommunications and enjoying that, but ultimately wanted to shift to this field so that I could replace that anxiety and fear element that I sensed from her with hope and purpose. And I've been on that journey ever since, really since 2002.
Wow, that's a pretty inspiring story, and it shows with your experience and the position that you've held. So, can you tell us, since you become a CEO of Goodwin Living in 2019, what are the initiatives that you implemented that you're the most proud of and that made the biggest impact? And maybe before we get into all the details, to tell us a little bit more about Goodwin Living and what do you do, and what do they do for the community?
Sure. Yeah. Goodwin Living is a remarkable organization that started in 1967 as a faith-based not-for-profit focused on serving older adults in the Northern Virginia area. And it started through the Episcopal Church with the idea of having housing for those who had retired. And so that's 1967. Fast forward, and in 1987, the organization built a second community. So now 2 locations, so 20 years in between. And then really in 1998, started to do things like hospice services just for residents internal to Goodwin Living and private duty home care. And then started to do some unique things like an at-home program. So you didn't have to move to a community to get services from us. That was just about 10 years ago or so. And then in 2019, when I came on, really looking to continue to grow its mission as an organization. Very solid in its mission, very solid in its commitment to serving residents, even if they've run out of money. Really focused on its team members, making sure they had success, that balancing mission that you referenced at the beginning, both focused on older adults, but those who care for them as well. And the board of trustees was looking for us to make a larger impact in more lives. So we ended up acquiring a certified home health operation in 2020, January of 2020. We worked on surviving through COVID. And I think not only survived through COVID, but we had some tragic losses, but ultimately as an organization, we're much stronger coming out of COVID, which was not something that everyone could say. We also realized in that moment that we had been really internally focused as an organization, and we needed to do more for the general community. And so we did. We started to serve a broader community, not just within our communities, but if we had resources, we wanted to share them as broadly as we could. And so that really has been the impetus for us over the last, let's call it 5 years as we've been journeying. We acquired a new community for us in 2022, which was our first rental community. Our other 2 communities are what we call entrance fee oriented communities, life plan type A contract communities, and very good value propositions, but they do come with entrance fees. from somewhere in the high 100,000s up to over $1 million. So that's not for everybody. So having a rental community was important to our board for financial diversity purposes and serving a more diverse population. And then we started to realize that we could do even more work in the community. So we are embarking upon building some new communities right now to try to provide additional housing for upwards of about 500 older adults. And then really through services, trying to provide as many ways to touch lives. So therapy services, occupational speech therapy. We're doing exercise programming with a lot of low-income housing providers in our market area. And you referenced our brain health program, which we provide complimentary, called StrongerMemory, which has been able to impact the lives of what we're calculating of over 44,000 people across the country and starting to be around the world, which is a real joy and benefit for us.
So yeah, so in just a few years, it's full steam ahead and crazy projects every day. So no, that's pretty impressive in just 6 years, not even 6 years, to have been able to achieve so much. So that is super great. And then one of the things that's pretty interesting is usually you have companies, they do senior living communities, and then some companies like, no, don't worry about the senior living communities, work on the age in place and we'll help you with that. But you kind of offer both. How that idea came about on offering both service, and even on your website it's on the same same website, but it has a look and different feel to try to separate the two.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. One of the wonderful things about Goodwin Living is at its core, it believes in the individuality of folks and the sacred value of folks. And I think because of that, we don't necessarily try to approach things just from one angle. We try to understand where people are at and try to meet them where they're at. And so certainly a number of folks love the idea of moving to a community and being in community with other people. And so our housing options are fantastic for those individuals. Yet the vast majority of people would prefer not to move. They want to stay in wherever their home is today. And sometimes they can't move because of financial challenges. And so we recognize if our mission is to support, honor, and uplift the lives of older adults, that our best pathway to doing that for the largest population of people is to have ways that are not just housing related. So that's where you come in with therapy services. We're one of the largest hospice providers in the Northern Virginia area, which is real mission-oriented work for us, very meaningful end-of-life work. And then it meant that we would be able to see beyond housing and offer up programs like our brain health program, which impacts people that are in our communities, certainly. A lot of good value and benefit to residents within Goodwin Living. And if those folks are benefiting and there's something we can share, then why not do that? And so really been able to expand our impact, not just in the Northern Virginia area or now DC area, but nationally and internationally. So it seems right and good for us as a faith-based not-for-profit. The need is huge. We're seeing this aging of societies, which is a real sign of success throughout the world in most parts. And so we want to be very much in celebration mode with those folks, help people be as successful in their aging journey as possible. I think that's part of what we see ourselves, that bigger role. And so it's made it so that we're not just housing oriented.
Wow, it's pretty incredible to not just help the people around you, but really try to make an impact worldwide. And we need the point is the more people like you, where they kind of put out their work out there to increase creativity and new programs, new ideas, and it's pretty exciting. Also, I know right before the recording we're talking about technology and how some people embrace it and some people kind of scared of it, and actually in a couple of weeks, so we'll have a special guest on the podcast with another in partnership with a partner about AI and how it can help how we can really help the service. And the idea behind this technology is not to replace people, but really to allow the staff to have more time to care and to have those, personal relationship with people. So how do you see, because I was, on your website and looking at your LinkedIn profile and see that you're very active and very up to date with all the latest and greatest of marketing and technology, and kind of wanted to get your take on all those new companies popping up and offering services as well for residents than operators.
Yeah, we're big fans of all these players coming in and new ideas coming in. We're part of the AARP Age Tech Collaborative. We work with organizations, try to help them refine their products and services so that they can be more successful when marketing in our field. So I think that's part of our understanding, is that we have to be a place where people can come and practice and get feedback, real-time feedback, which is important. And our residents are super interested in technology. Our team members are super interested in technology. The communities around us obviously are embracing technology in so many different ways. So we have a myriad of places that technology is already deployed and can be better deployed also. And I think that's going to be an always statement. We recognize as an organization that at a base level, we have to have, for residents that live with us, there has to be access to good foundational Wi-Fi for people to get and use their own technology, because the biggest technology companies are out there are the Apples and the Googles and the Amazons of the world. We have to be able to facilitate the utilization of those organizations, not necessarily become or provide that technology to all of our residents. There's such variations to what people want to use and how they want to use it. But not limiting them is a big deal, right? So don't become a limiting factor if you're going to talk about technology. At the same time, we are trying to find ways to make it easier for our team members not to hurt themselves while they're doing dining services. So we've deployed robotics in our dining venues, so that if people have dishes that they're done with, instead of having people carry large trays, we now have robots that are taking the bulk of that, which is important for our folks. So that's a good way to deploy technology, which is helpful for all. And then you reference artificial intelligence, and we certainly have some generative AI going on within our organization. We are working through a number of tools, be it accounts payable or on our website. If you go to, someone went to goodwinliving.org, they would start to engage with a chat bot that would very quickly offer a chance to talk with someone real time, or continually learn and figure out what is that person really looking for. So from right from go, when you engage with our organization, you'll see AI engagement. And then we get into technical things like hospice services. There's a tremendous amount of compliance work that's required for hospice and for most of the work that we do with residents, as it should be. It's important work. It needs to be have appropriate regulations. And so being able to have AI tools that help us ensure a better facilitation of the rules and regulations is a critical path for us. So a lot of focus. I would say the big win for us, a lot of parts we've added technology over the last 6 years since I've been part of the organization. And I would say one of the biggest wins has been we added now we're on our second tech concierge. So someone who can really help residents in particular when they come and engage with our technology platforms, learn how to best use their technology platforms. So sometimes it's not about new technology, but about embracing how to utilize the existing technology. And I think that is actually quite innovative,
Yes.
but really important.
I cannot agree more with you, because everybody's talking, oh yeah, we have this new software, we have this new this, and then people start using it, and after 2 weeks it's like nobody's using it, and it's like you just spent all this money implementing it for nothing.
That's right. That's right.
The
Utilization.
implementation, yeah, and the utilization is the 50-50. It's like you need to choose a good technology, but how to implement it, and I see how you're thinking. I was reading one of your posts on LinkedIn that you always focus on the future and how resilient things are going to be. And you were talking about starting in telecom and like where would you be in 30 years, and I see that it's really shaping your responses and your vision of how to run Goodwin Living, which is it's very important to not do something for the next 1 year or 2 years, but what are you going to do for the next decade?
Yeah, at least. And I think right now we have such a great opportunity in our field. If folks are thinking about where can I have a stable job for the next 20, 30 years, like working with older adults is perfect because these macro demographics are in our favor. We have this huge growth of older adults occurring where we're doubling the number. We're going up towards over 90 million older adults in the United States alone. And we've never seen those kind of numbers before. We were hanging around 45 million, 50 million. Now we're going to head towards 90 million. So there's going to be a lot of demand for people who know how to interact with older adults, engage with older adults, can come around the services and needs of older adults. And so that's why we get excited about supporting age tech programs, for example. But it also means that we can't just think about what's going to trend for the next year or two. We have to think about what's going to trend for up through 2060, right? That's a very different approach. And as an owner operator of most of the work that we do, it's super easy for us to not just try to create something for today, but really think through like, okay, we created for today, but it needs to last for years to come. And so it allows us to have a different mentality than an organization that's only looking at things for the next year or 5 years or 10 years.
Wow. And so I know you were mentioning at the beginning of the podcast that, it's important to take care of the residents, but it's as important to take care of the staff. I know I was talking not too long ago with the president of the SICA Foundation, which, helps recognize all the workers, which I think it's amazing. I see you have a little badge about top workplace in 2024. So can you tell us a little bit about your vision on that and what do you do to help? Because it can be very stressful. It's not necessarily the fault of the residents, but sometimes it's like there can be tension, and it's a 24/7 industry. There is no break. It's 365 a day and 24/7. We know at night, you have, how do you do at night? And so how do you envision, the well-being of the team and what do you put in place to help them?
Yeah, there's a 24-hour responsibility. There's no question about that. It's balanced amongst 1,300 pairs of hands and feet and eyes and ears. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity to have balance within the field as well, even though the work is consistent. We as an organization, it's in our mission to be balanced and to have that focus on both the people we're serving, but also who is doing the serving. Really critical for us. We understand that while we're doubling the number of older adults, we just experienced in 2024 the lowest birth rates in our country in 100 years plus. And currently, we are focused on not showing ourselves as a place of intentional welcome for immigrants. And so that is a challenge. It's a technical challenge, regardless of the political spectrum that you're on. We just need more hands. We're going to need a lot more hands. And we don't have easy ways to allow people to come in and be caregivers, for example, or to be maintenance technicians, or to be cooks. These are areas that are all in high need for us as a field and as a country. And we always think about, well, we need nurses. This is true. But we also need a lot of other parts to make our services available to older adults and provide what they're expecting of us. And so our organization has been really focused, hyper-focused. In fact, our emblem for 2024 will soon shift to 2025. We've been acknowledged as a top workplace again for the 7th year in a row. Top usually 1 or 2 in that category of largest employers in the DC area, not just amongst senior living providers, but amongst all employers, which I think is important to compete against. And we're competing for talent for sure. We recognize that deeply. We want to start off by making sure people know we're an intentional place of welcome. So regardless of your background, where you've come from, we want people to know that they can thrive with us. That's really important to us. In fact, it's not just a desire from the management of the organization, but it's a desire from every part of the organization. And in 2018, as an example, we had a resident come to us and say, hey, I noticed the hardworking team members that are working at this community. I love them and I want to support them more. And one of the things I recognize is that people who are not from this country would love to become US citizens, but they can't save up enough money to pay for the fees associated with that US citizenship test. What if we helped them? What if we paid for that test? Well, great idea. Within 2 weeks, we had raised $40,000. And subsequently, fast forward now 7 years, we've been able to help over 200 team members, and now extended it out to their family members to become US citizens in a legal way. So it's a really good win for everyone. Our residents love this. Our team members obviously love this. And we pay for their fees. And not only pay for their fees, but we now marry up resident mentors or tutors, I should say, with our team members so that they not only have the test paid for, but they get a chance to pass the test better because someone's helping them study along the way. And the
what a great story.
Yeah, the relationships that are created are amazing. If your listeners wanted to go out to the test documentary, they would see that there's a wonderful documentary that was created by two American University film professors that just about got into Oscar consideration this last year. Won a lot of awards at film festivals, and told the story of
the link for sure.
Yeah, of Eric Frimpong, who 8 years of not seeing his family. And not being able to, spend time with his wife and kids while he was focused on becoming a U.S. citizen, and finally gets to achieve that dream. And fast forward, his sister also has been able to achieve that dream. His wife is now here. His kids are here. Like everything is heading in the direction that is hopeful for him. And he's been a productive, awesome team member for us for over 10 years now, which is a big win for our organization. So really focused on changing the narrative of that discussion around what I call global workforce and how to attract global workforce. We need to be much more competitive there. At the same time, because we know we don't have high birth rates, we need to compete with the people who are around. So it's the high schoolers and the college students. We need to convince them that we're a place that's worthy of their attention. So we've done more work in the area of internships, paid internships for high school students, college students. We did over 50 paid internships last year. That yielded us 15 team members, new team members, people who decided to become a part of our team directly. So we think that these efforts of getting in with youth is really important. We think the efforts of getting in with the global workforce is really important. And for those listeners, again, as you noted, we really do like to share what's going on, and people can download our playbook to citizenship programs, and they can replicate what we've done. We hope they do. Soon we'll be posting our internship program so that anyone can follow us and replicate what we've done there, just as we offer up our StrongerMemory program. So anywhere we can be of service to others and help them replicate, we want to, because it's a hard journey we're all on in this service. I would just final note on this part is, last year we had 11,000 applications and we hired 400 positions, right? So that's not a very high percentage, less than 4% hiring. This year in 2025, as we're tracking, our first quarter of this year, we started in October 1st through the end of December. That's our first quarter. We had over 5,000 applications for 100 positions. So we know that we have to attract the best and the brightest. We can't just accept, anyone. We want the best people. I often say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being fantastic, we really only want 9s and 10s, or people who can quickly become 9s and 10s. And so we have to be competing, and we're trying to find ways. Much of the work we do is funded through our donations to our foundation as a faith-based not-for-profit. And so we've done a great job also coming around educational opportunities, making sure folks, we have about 80 to 100 team members at any time out of our 1,450 team members now, but about 80 to 100 are pursuing continuing education at any time. So, and we're paying for that. That's a commitment on our part. So a lot of parts to try to be the best. But
That that
really
is pretty
important.
impressive. All those programs, because it's really all encompassing. I would say all encompassing for all types of people, all from every background, and also people that want to get better. Some people are happy, with the same job and living the life that they have. Some people want to do better, and it's pretty impressive that you're also giving them that opportunity.
Yeah, and I expressed this with our team, and you probably find this with your team, and you have a distributed group of employees throughout, right? But for us, every week, our leadership is talking about how else can we sustain people, how else can we be relevant, how else can we compete with what's out there, and that question is super important to ask. And recently, we reviewed for our, we do a lot with people wanting to do continuing education, but we weren't attentive to people who came to us with already higher education achievements. And what we found is that many of our therapists, many of our clinical staff were coming with over $100,000 of school debt. And so we agreed that we would then start to pay down the school debt at a rate of $5,250 a year, as if they were going through their education. We offer that same benefit, $5,250 a year, after you've been with us for a little bit of time, if you want to pursue education. So we thought, well, maybe we should offer the same if you've already pursued education and just pay down the debt. That's been a huge win for folks who
For
just
sure, because
couldn't.
that's a big issue today in the U.S.
Yeah, and just couldn't conceive of buying a house or something else, getting their life started because they had too much debt that they were carrying. So I think that's an important factor for us, certainly as an organization.
Wow. Well, I think there is a lot of lessons to be to be learned from the podcast, not just about senior living, but just in like management. It's a pretty impressive, impressive achievement that you've been able to make in such little time. Really, I not much to say about, like, we should really talk about that on management side. And so, well, we're going to kind of shift a little bit to another thing that I think you're doing really well is the marketing and your website. And so how important it is to you, because you have a lot of people that rely on affiliate websites such as Place for Mom, to get leads. So some people, they just go on the local basis, and then you have people like us that believe also in digital marketing. And I see you doing an amazing job. Like the website is fast, it's everything. How important is to you that whole digital marketing side of things in order to attract people?
Yeah, and I just want to correct one thing that you've said a couple of times, which is how much that I've done in a short window of time. Really, Kathy Anderson, who was my predecessor, she spent 17 years building the foundation of this organization. So she allowed for me to go in directions that I wouldn't have been able to go to if she hadn't created the financial stability and the culture and really sustained it. And so a lot of credit to her and to the team members around me. I have team members who've been with the organization for 55 years. So although I've been with it for coming up on 6, they have really shaped the organization and made it what they want. My job has been not to mess it up and try to expand on the good work that they've done. So I think we've done a lot of that as well. But I just wanted to make sure that we set that record. And then on the marketing side of things, I would say, when I arrived, I had this keen awareness that if we were going to compete for both people who are looking for services and for people who are looking for jobs, we needed to be able to respond quickly to feedback. And so we needed people to be able to get the information they wanted quickly. And then we need to be able to respond to questions and to, if someone inquired with us quickly. So really that came from others, and just realizing our field, people are impatient, that the expectation of instantaneous is here to stay. And so if it is here to stay, then we've got to get as close to instantaneous in terms of our responsiveness as we can be. And within guidelines of everyone balancing their lifestyles. Like, I can't have someone 24 hours always responding to everyone all the time, but we have put a chat function in place that is, responsive 24 hours a day, both to people seeking out jobs, but also seeking out information from us and looking to connect. So I think that's something that we were really in tune with. I think another part of our marketing side, the marketing I really put with education. Education is is the equivalency for me for marketing. So how are we educating the market? And then sales is relationship building, right? Those are the two functions that are really important for holding up occupancy or getting people to choose you as an organization. What kind of relationships have you built? But on the marketing side, I would say one thing that we weren't as adept with was telling our story. And I think we have really leaned into the value of public relations, that our narrative doesn't have to be set for us, but could be set by us. And by really investing in telling the story of people, we can make a tremendous impact on how people view our organization. So we started to do that right before COVID. That's really paid off for us in terms of seeing us not as a woe is to us, a failure during a really hard time in COVID, but rather coming out with these wonderful stories of resilience and humanity, and a provider that is really there for you and cares for you. That was the messaging that we felt like we got across during COVID, and we've been able to sustain that. And that's important as people are looking for trusted partners right now. So we invest a lot of energy in that. You'll see.
I see it.
Yeah.
I can see that. If there is one thing I can see is that, and I was thoroughly impressed with everything, like the content, the content, the images, everything is up to date. It's fast. It's like easy to navigate. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. And we're right now going through a total revitalization of it. And so
oh my goodness,
just as in case you're liking it now, we're not trying to stay idle. We want it to be even better for the next version of who we want to project. Yeah.
No, that's super exciting. No, that was honestly very, very impressed with what you and your predecessor and Goodwin is doing, and for the community, for the community on all sides, and really the people around you in Virginia. So really kudos to you. I wish you all the best for this exciting times that are coming ahead, and really hope that you're going to be able to grow the Goodwin Living to keep I would say keep doing what you're doing, but at a even bigger scale.
Yeah, I hope so. That's certainly the hope of the board of trustees. I would say the commitment has to be that we meet the commitments we already have made before we grow to other commitments. So that's always the balancing act. We can't go too far in front if we aren't making sure we're resolving all that we've already promised before. So we're working really hard to do that. But we did just have our first affiliation in the last couple of weeks, which is feels really good, really awesome, with an organization that started in 1889. So our history goes back a lot more now than it did before in the 1967 version. And we hope to be able to provide support, honor, and uplift a lot of other older adults, and do that with wonderful people.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.